Good afternoon. So this is just a closing review on the work I've done on the trigger of the Umarex SPA 60. So you can see the highlighted bits here. These are the bits I've actually polished up. So if I go to the actual, picture I took when I took it apart. So this bar here that runs from the inside the trigger and pushes that sear there. Okay. I polished all that face up there, all that face along the top, because as this pulls, that pushes upwards against this. So that was quite bad. Well, it's cast, and there's lots of roughness on it. So I smoothed that all the way down, and also smoothed inside there as well. So when that sits on that pin, it moves smoothly. So all that bit was polished. This edge here was polished, obviously. Then this edge round here was also polished, yeah. And then the top face is there and there, because when it's cocked, that sits above there like that. Okay, so polished all these faces and also cleaned up in here at the top of this sear as well. And all I used was some Auto Sol, which is a metal polish. I used some heavier sandpaper first to take all any rough edges off, take it right down to the smooth, and then use some fine stuff with this as well to actually polish it and clean it up. Okay, so that removed all the rough edges. And you could use a small file as well if you have any sort of edges on the side, on the actual sides themselves, here and here. Depends how they've been manufactured and how smooth they are. So I cleaned all that lot up, and the results are pretty good. So we've got the pistol here; it's all back together. I've just been outside and done some pull tests on it. Used my Wheeler spring balance pull gauge. Okay. Now the results. Now, out the box, this reads up to £9, this gauge, and it wasn't even reading it. In fact, it was probably going more like 10 out the box. Then I greased it up with some molybdenum grease here. Yeah, took the side off, just put some grease in, and it came down to just over 8. It was actually reading on the scale. Now, after I did all this polishing work, yeah, it's now reading £5 pull, and it's consistent as well. And also, the grittiness, because the original trigger pull, after you've cocked it, as I was pulling it, yeah, I might have to hold the grip safety in to make the trigger move. Okay, so as I was pulling it, yeah, it was like a first stage to there, then there's quite a bit of grittiness before it fired. Yeah, all that's gone now. So what you got now, you've got like a first stage pull to about there, and it's really smooth. It's quite light as well, it's only about a pound, yeah, and then it stops on that sear, on this point here, okay, and then just squeeze the trigger and it fires. There's no creep or anything. It's really actually a very good trigger now. It's just a little heavier than what I'd like, but because you can't do an awful lot with these springs, because you've got a spring here, yeah, and that obviously pulls that sear so it sits on there. So when it fires, yeah, it returns to that position, okay. And this spring here makes sure that lever goes right and it engages in underneath that sear. You can't actually do too much of these springs, otherwise you're going to have a hair trigger. I did just stretch just one coil of that, yeah, just to weaken it a little bit. Yeah, I did warm it up and just give it a little bit of, so it's wasn't quite as tensioned, but I did leave this one alone. Okay, so with the polishing, and that was just pure polish, yeah, metal polish, yeah, made once I've taken all the roughness off it. But this was the main thing. I think that was causing the actual grinding bit. As that pulls, that was pushing up on runs across this bit here. This is a plastic frame, and notice there's quite a bit of gap, you know, either side of it. It's not a particularly close tolerance. It would have been better if that had been a closer tolerance, so it would run smoothly. But that does move a bit. But now, when you pull the trigger, as it pulls, yeah, it's like a first stage, and it goes to that point where that engages with that sear, and then you just pull the trigger the rest of the way, and it goes straight away. So all that polishing on all these faces has worked a treat, and it's reduced the pull to £5. Now, one thing obviously you've got to be careful when you polish is you mustn't change the actual profile of any of these sears, because obviously if you do, you can affect them badly. They might not engage properly, or you might have a hair trigger. With this pistol, I gave it some serious abuse outside, yeah, some knock testing, which I do when I polish any sears up, to make sure I haven't got a hair trigger, and there was no hair trigger on this. I literally held the grip safety, and I was basically slamming it on the table, you know, with the trigger pulled to see if it would go off, and it doesn't. So what I've done here is safe. One other thing I did do, this spring here, now this is the weight of your trigger pull. As you pull that, that compresses. What I did do, I did warm that off and just compress that a little, yeah, and then let it cool. So it's not quite as strong as it was before. So the first stage pull, yeah, is only about £1 now, which is really nice, and it's lovely and smooth, yeah, and it's very consistent. I've tried to pull off at least 10 times, and with your finger on the bottom of the trigger like that, where I fire mine, it's £5 pull, okay, and that's down from £8. So it's pretty good. Very smooth. Trigger's very consistent now. There's no grinding in the actual pull. It may be a little heavy for, you know, youngsters to shoot, you know, but it's not overly heavy now. You know, I think when I go out and do another target test on this, providing I get my peep sight sorted, you know, because this particular model, the 60, shoots about 4 inches high. I've had to turn it into like a peep sight. So I actually look for the foresight, top of the foresight, inside that peep sight area there, between the bottom of the sight and the top of the red tape. Okay, but it works. Yeah, it works very well. So yeah, what are my thoughts now? Yeah, I always like this pistol. It's cheap, it's affordable, it seems pretty well made. Obviously, when you look inside it, obviously you're looking at the picture again, which is quite useful. Obviously, all this is like ABS, so this sits inside ABS. That's very, very basic, that piece of metal. Now it's been polished up, so it's super smooth there. Along the top edge, definitely, because like I said, it does, as you pull the trigger, that does come up and ride along that top. So you need to, then there's lots of ribbon in that casting, lots of it. That's why it was so rough. And also that needs to be smooth. That area needs to be smooth, and obviously all these bits around here need to be smooth as well. So when all the bits that face, molybdenum L2 grease, yeah, I coated all the faces with that as I assembled it, and yeah, it's really nice. Yeah, I shall almost certainly do the same thing to my the SPA 100, which is the longer version of this at some point. But I haven't really shot that one at all yet. I've just been playing around with this one to see what we can do with it to improve it. So yeah, yeah, really nice for 45 UK. You can't really knock it, really. I mean, I don't know why really Umarex could have done all this, you know, specially, you know, some sort of polishing machine to polish all these metal parts up, and maybe made that out of something rather than a bit of cast steel, you know. But yeah, it works very well. Obviously it's cheap. It's only 45 in the UK and 50 for the longer barrel. But yeah, for a budget break barrel, yeah, really nice. I like it. So I hope you like that little review. Take care, and thanks for watching.